3. And thus, we started the week with E3 with Microsoft. Now, Microsoft, well, it was disjointed.
Well, usually they do it where it's the hardcore games first, then Kinect, and then casual stuff. This year they bookended it by having the hardcore games up front, then a lot of non-game stuff. Like literally, no video games were shown for over a third, or maybe a third or over of the conference, and then back to games again. But by that time, we were like,
the conference was an hour and a half, and a half hour of that, the middle half hour, was dedicated to mostly media content. And then the last half hour, by then, it was either teaser trailers or a couple games we kind of expected, and by then we kind of lost interest of the show. And that's nothing against the Microsoft overall, but there was a lot of dead space in there to the point where it lost the attention of the viewers.
They really should have found a different way to announce those media applications, because we're here about the games. Mm-hmm. We're not here to hear why we're getting new with ESPN, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, so we're going to start off with Halo 4.
They started out strong. We were all thinking they were going to start with Call of Duty, but they decided, Halo 4. And we saw it was very, very short in comparison to how it's usually.
Yeah, they actually had to start with this these human actors.
Yeah, running around in some.
And then it showed went from there to the actual game, and by then you could really tell.
It was a very weird juxtaposition.
And then it's and then of course it starts off with this footage of you playing the game. Looks beautiful. Yeah, it looks great. At 343 Industries, you've done yourself good.
And you run around through the forest. You're fighting new enemies. You're fighting. You start the Covenant, but then immediately shows you new enemies.
Yeah,
and they move around and they cut the
robots and they're. And it looks like
and the Forerunner weapons. This really cool looking design.
And then she says to use your visor.
Yeah, and the first thing I got, even the setting, I thought this looks like Metroid Prime.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people were tweeting about. Is they're saying it was Halo Metroid Prime stuff. I don't see all of that Metroid Prime influence. I do see the robotic creatures looking similar. I do see the visor element, and they don't explain it here, but there's a scanning element too. But I don't see it as much as you see it.
I see the similarities. I have no problem with them using it because it's a good thing to do.
It's still going to be a level-based shooter.
Of course. I want to see more of... I wanted to really see more of it.
Yeah,
because it was very a linear corridor.
It was not even that much of a corridor. It was like the same forest area for 3 minutes, and that was the demo.
For me, it was a very short demo. It was more cool, where now you see trees and stuff, and there's monsters. And
now, I don't know if it was playable on the show floor, if it was just multiplayer. If it was just multiplayer, then you can tell it was pretty much that they didn't want to really focus on making a demo for the single-player experience. And, people play it for the multiplayer more than the single-player. But they also
had a trailer. Look good.
Yeah, they also had a trailer, which, gave hints of what the storyline's going to be.
Yeah, we were right, Cortana going insane.
Yeah, and more human elements, because you start to hear him give more
opinions on
things.
He actually spoke more in that trailer in that game demo than most of Halo.
Yeah. So that was there. I think it would have been longer. It should have been longer.
Right after that, they mentioned sales hype.
They were saying, it's the best-selling system of 2011. We sold this many Kinects, blah, blah, blah. And then they just moved on. They didn't really give too much embellishment on that because they'd keep moving. The second thing they showed off in terms of games was Splinter Cell Blacklist, a brand new announcement.
This was actually, there was popped up
it was a rumor that came up a few days ago, yeah.
And the idea is that it's more action-packed. Look, there's a lot of stealth. You could be stealthy if you want.
Yeah.
But one of the big features they added was you can pinpoint certain kills and run and activate it, and you kill all of them.
Yeah, and you
only get the ability to do that again by pulling off stealth moves.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds very familiar.
And you also have a CO with you, who at any time you can be like, yo, I need rockets to come down, and they drop rockets.
And that's their Kinect feature.
Yeah.
And by the way, it will be coming up constantly throughout the conference.
Yeah, the Kinect features were mostly microphone-based, so...
And they might as well make a microphone if they're going to do this.
So anyway, it looked good, but...
Yeah, graphically, most games look good.
But you know what? It goes back to the action page.
Chest-high walls. I really preferred it. This is supposed to be a stealth game. They really need to have stealth mechanics. Or at least they should have shown the guy being stealthy. It seemed like one scene, he literally just jumped down over the balcony and started shooting. That's not what Fisher would have done. No. He would have gotten those guys dead before they know it.
I guess because Conviction sold so well, they decided to stick with that sort of formula.
So then FIFA 13 was next.
This was EA Sports. They just come out and go, we're sports. And they said that FIFA 13 allows you to actually yell out plays and commands and say, hey, shoot over here when you're playing with Kinect. So that means that technically you can almost play the entirety of FIFA 13 without a controller. But nothing really more to add to that. And then they added on with saying Madden 13
we'll do the same thing.
We'll have the same thing. You can yell out plays. You can swap people out while you're waiting to go. You can say hike and go. They had Joe Montana there from the Broncos. Remember him? Yeah. That was interesting. He wasn't as awkward as some of the other sports guys, but he was being very quiet. So I
think he was still kind of like, this is a game.
Football is a sport. Just to let you know that.
Next, they went back into
the Kinect games for the hardcore. Wait, it was not for the hardcore because Fable: The Journey became a cuter game.
A very cartoony styled.
Apparently, they decided that Fable can't cater to the hardcore anymore in this nature, so they aimed for where the Kinect features have been going toward, which is a more children-friendly experience.
Now, I did see a video of this being in action, and it did look a little more more not so cute as the trailer showed. There was but still it was a little more smooth edged, more about just being.
Yeah, and no, Lionhead did not announce a new game.
Also, apparently you actually weave like this to move your character from point to point. I don't know if that allows you to choose where you're going, but it still seems pretty on rails based on what we saw. And they really like showing you using the spells to blow things up.
Yeah, I mean, that might be cool, but it definitely was still holding on to that rails mentality we saw last year.
We were really hoping for more open-endedness. It wasn't even, and that was it. They didn't even mention it.
It was a trailer.
They just showed the trailer and moved on.
Speaking of trailers, they announced a game that was actually unveiled through Game Informer. The next Gears of War Judgment.
This is a prequel. You play as Coltrane, and what's your guy's name?
Bard. Is Baird.
Okay, where?
But the game takes place before they get, freed in the beginning of the series. We actually got very little footage of the game.
It was just...
You might as well just say it was a CG trailer at this point.
It was just Gears of War. They didn't show anything about it, no talking about it, no demonstration.
I thought there was going to be no Gears of War game announcement anymore.
But
it seems to be true to form that every year there has to be either Halo or Gears of War, and 2013, and this one was... This is Halo's, next year's Gears of War. The fact that people can fly, they're the ones who are making this game. They did the Bulletstorm game, which was shown I think 2 years ago. Too bad that game didn't do it that well, but then again, they're working on it. They're still working, so
okay. And then they also showed off Forza Horizon.
Was there Wub Wub in that? I think there was Wub Wub in that trailer. Yeah, there was Wub Wub. That was the first Wub Wub trailer of them. Surprisingly, low amounts of dubstep at ESE3. Just saying.
I was a little concerned because it looked like you just were on... Because they didn't really actually show the open world aspect of it. They really just showed you racing on a highway.
Yeah, it looks more like they tried to follow the Need for Speed series with the Hot Pursuit and that sort of thing. Granted, it still looks pretty neat. It looks pretty good. I mean, I've never played a Forza game. I will admit that right off the bat. This might be a game I want to try out because I love cars. At least kart racing games that are usually outside of the sim category. So that looks like a game to look out for. And then there are no games at this point. We're going to Bing.
Yes, Bing. Yeah. They didn't announce a new OS, but they decided to tell us that, Bing can now be in other languages, and they decided to run through it for at least 5 minutes, solid.
Yeah, the guy who presented it did a very good job using Kinect's Spanish-speaking languages and being able to jump back and forth and search new things and optimizing it. This is technically an improved OS,
but...
It's
not worth breaking up the time just to show it over and over. We got it. You say it once. That's what we got. You move on from here.
And sticking on with the OS stuff, we got tons of new media apps. We're talking Twitch TV and Nickelodeon, Paramount Studios,
Machinima,
and Univision. And those are all just a few of what became added on. And Crackle, I think, was also added. Crackle was from Sony's. Skip that. We'll get to that later. But they added a whole bunch of things to different locations, and on top of that, they pushed sports programs as a big thing.
Yeah, ESPN's adding more of their shows to it. It's not a 24-hour thing. It means there's 24-hour content, which means you can, anytime you want, you can watch content.
Yeah. There's also NBA and NHL, which will be involved. got plenty of sports. Yeah, I mean, pull off the screen for a second. Yeah, there's plenty of sports to be had. Last year was UFC, and this. I mean, frankly, if you love sports, then you might want to get an Xbox 360 at this point.
That's pretty much what they're showcasing.
Yeah.
Then they went on to talk about, they announced Xbox Music, which is pretty much iTunes.
It's Zune. It's pretty much
Zune for the Xbox or Microsoft in general, because they kind of stopped this.
Yeah, then they showed a trailer at the time. They showed them using their tablet to control stuff, and we had really no idea what was going on.
It's a foreshadow.
It was kind of a foreshadowing, though I think it was actually, like, it actually interacts with your tablet already.
Also, so I'm like, music player. Okay, got it. And then they announced Nike Plus Kinect training. Pretty much Nike is partnering with Microsoft to do a special app or download.
Trust me, it's an actual
retail game, which is basically is Kinect Fit.
Yeah.
Using a special band that the Nike
biometrics,
the Plus band, which they've
been pushing that.
They've been pushing out a lot, and then now they're working with the Xbox 360, where it reads your numbers, and now you can do it online. There's trainers that can actually call you, leave a message on your phone telling you, "Hey, don't forget to train with your trainer thing today," and you get to see yourself on the screen doing the Kinect motions with them. Yeah.
Also, I guess the band also acts as like a pedometer a little bit, so it actually registers how fast you're moving and all that stuff. It's how many calories you're burning.
I mean, I just think that, it's just another fitness game.
Yeah, there's a lot of fitness games out there. Whether you're talking about Zumba Fitness, and you've got all the training,
like your body shape or whatever it was called.
Yeah, it's just something that they've been releasing ad nauseum every year. But this time, I think there's a chance it might be.
Now that they got Nike Plus on it,
yeah,
they may get some.
But at the same time, it might just be a name. We got this Nike game on here. Nike has made a game that utilizes fitness before. It was Nike Fitness with the iToy, so keep that in mind.
Next, we move on to the big surprise that we've kind of been foreshadowing throughout the
and it kind of involved the Windows Phone shout out. We're talking about Xbox SmartGlass.
Essentially, it's a program application that can be downloaded to your tablet, smartphone, and it doesn't have to be just Microsoft stuff. It can be anything: iPods, Androids, and basically you download it. And it streams information based on what you're doing on your Xbox.
Yeah. So say, for example, this is an example they used. Say, for example, you're watching Game of Thrones using their HBO app or Netflix or something. While it's playing this video, it'll actually show you the content of Game of Thrones. You can see actors and content, and you can even have a dedicated section to a particular content. In the case of Game of Thrones, they actually show you the location on the map of the series where the scene is happening. So then when it cuts to another scene, you actually see the tablet shift the map over to the new location that the scene is taking place in.
It's cool, but
it requires you to...
It's like pop-up video.
Yeah, it requires you to look down. They actually mentioned that you might see factoids come up. But then they showed off stuff like, when you're listening to music, you might get information, or, more importantly, information from the games.
Yes, they showcased two, not actual content.
Oh, they were concept demos.
But they were concept demos. One was Madden, where the person was actually using the tablet to pick out his plays and adjust on the fly of where he wanted them to run and go.
Yeah.
And they also showed Halo 4.
Halo 4.
Of you clicking an object and downloading information to Halo Waypoint.
Like for example, when you scan a particular item and then it appears on the screen, you tap it, it downloads the information of, say, that item up there and says, here's the full biography of that. So it essentially becomes the scan visor for the game without just having to scan it. And then you also have...
They
also have stuff like quick notes, like saying, hey, someone's trying to challenge you. You can click on it and it'll save the game and send you into
the multiplayer mode.
But these are all concepts. We don't know what they're actually going to show for these games. And frankly, if those are the only two demos concept-wise for...
It was very...
It tells me that they probably have been making these game-focused elements over the last few months, maybe. And I think maybe we'll not see it come out at launch for those games. But you know what? This is Microsoft. They're king of patches. More likely than not, they're going to introduce more and more content.
My only concern is who's actually going to do that. All the information you have to make with Game of Thrones, that means they would have to design stuff for this.
Well, that means that if it's Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is popular. I don't think you're going to see someone looking up the Yellow Submarine and being able to see like a full map of the location you're in. I
think the problem is it went on so long, and it seemed like This was more like, in the way they were describing it, like they were saying like, oh, it's for your Xbox and your stuff you currently own, like the stuff you already have.
You won't have to buy a new controller for this.
And the idea is that the reason they did this with the SmartGlass was to preemptively prevent people from buying Wii U.
Also, Apple TV.
And Apple TV, saying, you don't need to buy anything else. Why do you want to buy a Wii tablet, or the Wii U tablet, or the new Apple TV, when you can just use your Xbox and your stuff, and you'll do it all at the same content. Look, you can do it for games and everything.
To enhance your experience. I mean, I understand. I've had moments where I've been like, who's
Curious.
that? Like, you want to check Wikipedia about what's going on. Here, you wouldn't have to. You'd have it right there. Of course, you'd have to have your tablet or your phone on at the time, and the screen on, and streaming data back and forth. You better hope you have a good. Good battery, or else you're doomed. Like
they also announced a big surprise: Internet Explorer for Xbox.
They wanted to demonstrate that they finally have web browsing on the system, because they're actually about 5 years late for their chip.
And to be frank, Internet Explorer isn't like full of hazards like viruses.
I wouldn't say that, because it streams from the Xbox. It might be a lot harder for any viruses or anything to affect.
And you can use it with Bing and all your voice commands.
Oh yeah, don't think that they don't integrate it. It's called synergy for a reason.
I hope you. And then now we finally get the diversion. Finally back to games. Tomb Raider.
Now, we had mentioned before
that like hurting
in the first video before with Konami and Game Trailers TV that Tomb Raider emphasized a lot of pain on her.
She got hit by trees. She fell down a hill. She was in a waterfall. Explosions.
Yeah.
Pain all
the beginning
around.
of the game, she was being stealthy and shooting and like taking down people with a bow, and then she started stabbing people in the throat. And then it's like, okay, so despite the fact that she was whining in this trailer, she's become bloodthirsty. And so she'd knock people off into pits, and then when she tried to escape from what was going to be something exploding, right? Oh yeah, no, she was in the river rapids.
Yeah.
And then she fell into an airplane that had been downed. And before the glass in the cockpit broke, where she was laying on, she grabbed inconveniently. She grabbed, grabbed like an airbag, not an airbag. She grabbed an airbag and hit herself.
It was a parachute.
And then ended up hitting trees several times.
And it had
QTs. By the way, at the point that she actually hit all the trees flying there, the game started to become less serious and more hilarious to me. I was wondering what painful thing was going to happen to her next. She's going to be caught on fire before she hits the ground. I was guaranteeing she's going to lose a limb before she makes it to the ground. That would have. I mean, yeah. I think the actual the hurting that's happening here, all the pain and whatnot,
makes me more and more sorry for her. It's like, oh come on, developer, I got it. She's in pain. Let it go.
Yeah, and of course she fell, broke her ribs, and of course she had a wound from the very beginning of the game. Remember, she had rebar shoved into her side, and thankfully they made the pole obviously smaller so as not to look like she was going to bleed to death. That doesn't change the fact that she probably has an infected wound now in her side, but
that's Tomb Raider.
That's Tomb Raider. Yeah, that's the second shooter. So
Ascend New Gods.
This was a time where Microsoft started showing off new franchises, one teaser trailer after another. All three of the following games are coming out in 2013, and they're all probably downloadable games.
Ascend New Gods, I didn't like it.
It's being developed by the guys who did the Toy Soldiers games. This game looks to be that you play a mid-sized god who has the smaller gods, or people, helping you. At the same time, you're killing other sub-gods to become stronger, and then you have huge gods where you're trying to kill them so that you become a new god. The game it was a bit rough. There was some frame rate issues. I wasn't too fond of the art style either, to be honest.
I think it was going for like the old Warhammer.
And was he doing like hard rock during the trailer? I can't remember.
But I all remember it was like I was watching it. I'm like, I don't feel it, and I was like.
I gotta give him credit. It's a new thing.
Yeah, well.
The only issue I have is that it didn't really reveal anything.
More blood, more gore.
Yeah, it didn't reveal much about the story or what's going on.
No, but just was here. It is.
Ascend, New Gods. All right.
LocoCycle is the new Twisted Pixel game. They teased.
We had actually thought that there may have been something from them, and that it wasn't going to be shown. Well, this is kind of true. The game.
They just said, "Okay, it's a cycle." Yeah.
They had some sort of little humor in there, but in reality, it's like, okay, you got a laser bike, and that's it.
No, nothing.
No, nothing. That's coming out probably summer of Arcade 2013.
Yeah.
Twisted Pixels made some good games. Let's see what they can do with this racing game. Which is
the next one is done by the director of Rango and Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yep.
It's Matter.
Matter, it looks to be some sort of... I
Marble
thought it was Marble Madness on steroids. But it wasn't, because your character floats most of the time. And he actually has like some manipulative abilities. There's blocks moving around. And it looks to be like that kind of buzz killed for me for a minute. But,
nice.
It looked great.
But it's a
teaser trailer. We don't know what it actually looks like and how it really plays. I hope to God it's not like you have to tilt yourself to move the world or you grab things. I don't know. We'll find out when it's shown off because
next year,
probably sometime mid next year even.
And now we go Resident Evil 6.
Yeah, so we from here we break away from 2013 games. In fact, I think those are like the main 2013 games. That and Tomb Raider. We go to the 2012 games again with Resident Evil 6.
Yep, Shoff Leon, and to my dismay, it is not a horror-filled adventure.
No, it's action-packed all the way.
This is like. Then they promised us that it would be like horror-filled, survival, you stealthily moving around trying to survive. There was explosions, there was you in a helicopter, there was quick time events.
Yeah.
It was literally Resident Evil 6 times 2.
You mean 5 times 2.
What did I say?
You said 6 times 2. How could you tell?
It is 6.
It's 6 times 2, which would make it actually make it Resident Evil 12, and that's not coming out until we're at least 32.
Wreckateer.
Wreckateer is essentially, you're going to say it. Angry Birds with Kinect. Now the game was shown off at PAX East, and I really wanted to try it out myself and actually film it and whatnot. We didn't actually get time to do that. It looked pretty solid, but I just don't know how it looked kind of slow. The person who was there to show it off, who wasn't from Iron Galaxy, who developed it, I think. But the way it was, like she was like, "Oh, let's steer it," and of course it took like 3 minutes to destroy this.
We got it. You have to show.
It was kind of slow, and I kind of fear that the rest of the game will be just as slow to play. But then again, this is a Kinect-based game, so it can't be fast, or else it might not register it right. So
and then they showed off the first trailer for South Park: The Stick of Truth.
This was a breath of fresh air after the run we've had at this point. The creators of South Park came out,
and they actually mocked the
Xbox SmartGlass. Good for them.
It was a nice trailer. It showed some gameplay.
I'll tell you right now, it looks exactly like the show, which I think was the greatest aim they could go for, and it looks like a solid RPG. And you get the solid RPG element. You attack other creatures, and you got Star Fox. Oh my God! As they South Park tropes humor and the like. If it weren't for the fact that I would feel awkward playing it myself, I might be interested to take a look at it. Plus, you create your own character to be the main character.
So you play a new character, silent protagonist.
And it looks hilarious. So I'll take a look at it through some sort of rental service probably. But I highly recommend looking at it further because it looks great and it's Obsidian and they apparently do very good RPGs.
Then they came with Usher.
Oh God, they did that.
Yes, Usher was like, yeah, Dance Central 3. Yeah, I really liked it. Some of the dances in the game are based off. You know what? Maybe I should just show you my dances. And he comes out on stage and starts dancing. I don't even know what that's part of his dance routine.
He was like, yo, I want to make a new song. I want to make a. I have my 2 new. I helped choreograph 2 songs. One of them is my new song. You can buy it right now. By the way, there was a lot of cross-promotion happening at all these press conferences. It kind of made me want to shoot myself in the temple. But, Dance Central 3, I thought just for sure they were going to make a first-party dance game, but I was wrong.
Nope. Instead, Usher stood on stage for like 3.5 minutes singing his song and dancing.
Thank goodness we could skip that because we rewatched it as opposed to watching it the first time.
And it ended with, here's our big surprise, Call of Duty Black Ops 2. What? I guess we were.
It wasn't a big surprise. They didn't say it was a big surprise, really.
But it's like this is your last game. Like, oh.
Did it even come out after the demo was done?
I don't even know.
No, I think it just ended.
I think it came out and ended it. But
yeah, the trailer was. Oh, it wasn't a trailer. It was a play, but it was like, it was a very long. A very long demo of one level. It wasn't even more than
just one level. Of you saving
you and the president, and I would have traded.
You can make choices of what you're gonna do. Like you can be the stealth, you can be the guy sniping,
I would.
Why'd they show an escort mission?
Twice. One was in a plane.
Why were they escorting?
Anyway,
we don't want to see escort missions. We want to see action. Well, there was
action,
but there was a lot of escort.
I think I think they could have traded off a little bit of that in favor of more Halo 4, to be honest. But, that was never going to happen at this point.
And so that's Microsoft's conference.
Yep. And overall, what did we think? Did it actually do what we thought it said we were going to do? Was it really 360, it only does everything? And the answer is yes.
Yes, that's pretty much what they did.
That was what they did.
Because the games that they mentioned here were games they knew were going to sell, so they brought them up. There wasn't any major surprises. And because most of them were announced beforehand, and even the games like Gears of War Judgment, which would have been a huge surprise, they barely even touched upon. They just said, "Here it is," and then they spent over about a half an hour or plus on non-game stuff. Indicate to me that they didn't have any new games to show because face it, next year the next Xbox comes out.
All the new games that they were pushing, like Gears of War Judgment and those three like downloadable games and Tomb Raider. Those are 2013 games, but there was not a lot of them. In terms of brand new game announcements that were coming out within the next 6 months, damn near nothing. I mean, there was Dance Central 3, but these are all things you can see coming right at your face. You got dance games, you have Nike Plus Kinect training, but in terms of brand new games for the core audience,
everything was just teasers.
Everything was either teasers of next year or, hey, we got Halo and Call of Duty. Let's call it a night.
I felt that.
But there's some solid games in this. There's some solid games in this list. So we gotta pick one. What do you think was going to be the game to look for coming from this list of games that they showed off?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is Halo 4.
Yeah,
it looks visually pleasing and Splinter.
Yeah, and granted the fact is,
and the multiplayer will get you keep going.
And granted the fact is, we haven't really played Halo games that much, but Halo 4 looks sweet. And
South Park, The Stick of Truth.
I'll have to take a look at Forza Horizon myself, but yeah, you're right. South Park, The Stick of Truth, and Halo 4 were the highlights, as far as I can tell.
One big surprise that caught me off guard was that there was no family-friendly games this year.
Yeah.
Last year, they at least had 2 games or something that would get people excited for. Bring it to your kids. Let your kids play.
Yeah.
This year, none. This game was all based on the very particular audience. The audience that has an Xbox. The conference was all about. It was all about the guys who have an Xbox. And
but they did have stuff like Wreckateer and Dance Central 3. But I understand. But I do see that they held back from the children's gaming stuff
this year.
But I would have to say it's probably because they saw the negative press from last year and the year before, and then they also said, you know what? We can still make games for children and not hype it up anymore. The Kinect has been slowing down a bit sales-wise. They didn't really admit that, but it's been slowing down. And, next year we're going to be releasing a new system, so we don't care at this point. At this point, the third parties who are making Kinect games will do it for us. Yeah. And that's important. Anyway, bingo analysis time.
We didn't get bingo.
We didn't get bingo. We actually almost got bingo, I think, 3 times.
If they had just announced that there was an exclusive DLC for...
If Grand Theft Auto 5 was there in any shape or form with DLC, we would have been all hunky-dory. We would have yelled at bingo and be all happy and stuff, but that didn't happen. Nope. Also, there was no new console demo, not even a peep, and there was no non-Kinect Rare game.
And in fact, there was no Rare console.
No Rare whatsoever.
Despite the fact that apparently Season 3 is in development.
Yeah. They are, in fact, hiring... people for first-person shooter, as I said in the predictions. So I would probably say that's what they're working on next, is a shooter for the launch of the Xbox 360 because 720 because there's going to be no Halo game for the launch, and Gears of War Judgment is probably coming out the first half of 2013. So it's a perfect time for them to try and regain their hardcore gaming name.
We'll rank all the conferences at the end of all this.
Yeah. So anyway, that's Microsoft for you. Have fun with whatever games they just announced. And
I'm getting a factoid.
Oh,
you're apparently my twin.
No, really? It says here, you're insane because you're holding your hands like you're holding a tablet. Hey, my name's there too.